Good evening. How are you this evening? Kind of a weird way to start the show, and I apologize for that. Um, I am all over the place. Oh, goodness. I just ran downstairs. I was upstairs for a moment, and that's not a good way to start the show. Kind of strange. Anyway, um, how are you tonight? It is Wednesday night, January 4th, 2023. This is my second live stream back for the new year. Yesterday went well. I just got tired and I started to get a cough, and I was like, I'm done. Like an hour in, I'm done. I think it's fair to say, oh my gosh, let me fix the camera. I think it's fair to say that there's going to be some changes this year. Let's look at our accomplishments from last year, though, to start. One, I got a new microphone. I don't know if I got the audio totally fixed, but it's better for me. This thing is huge, and I don't know that I really like it. I don't know what I'm going to do about it. I'm kind of stuck with the microphone I have. I'm not changing. It just needs to sound better now. I got a Focusrite. I've got all kinds of stuff. I want to check something real quick. It's probably going to screw things up. No, that's nothing. That's terrible. I know I'm doing something wrong, but I have no idea what. So anyway, so the microphone purchased, not done. Second, there's the camera. When I started the year, I had my original lens on my Sony, and it was like in the background, it was pulsating all the time, and it was terrible. I did get that fixed, like because I got a different lens. I don't remember the name of the lens, but it's nice. It's very nice. So that's something. I moved my whole setup to a different wall, so that's something. The viewership not great, and lately it's just been falling off, and I'm not sure why. I haven't really done anything different. In fact, my show's much better than it was when I started. My impressions are better. The hours watched are terrible. So that's frustrating. What would I do differently in 2023, or what can we look for? I kind of want an overlay. I do. I kind of want an overlay. I kind of want a new computer, and I kind of want a new camera, but I can't really do that without some sort of like, I got to get enough subscribers or something to warrant that. And then what else would I do? I don't know. Would I do a different? I don't know. Would I do a producer? Would I bring people in for the show? I've always wanted to have guests. It's just very hard to get a guest on 135 subscribers, which is good because I was below 100 for a long time too. So we just keep growing. We just keep going at it day after day after day. But I have put a lot of time in this. I'm kind of surprised about how much time this takes. But anyway, you might not care about any of that. You may be wondering, why am I watching you? What are you doing? Who are you? My name is John Schenk. I'm the founder and managing broker of Deerwood Realty in St. Louis, Missouri. We're a small firm, residential. We help buyers buy homes and sellers sell theirs. At night, I do the Deerwood Realty live stream. If you ever want to know about me, you should probably just come on a live stream and listen. I'm not any different in real life. I'm the same person. I think a lot of people are like, well, we should interview our real estate agent. We should, see what they write. If they think different than us politically, then we should, definitely not use them. If they, it's gotten to the point now where it's not about competency, because you really can't tell. Like, where are you going to look? If I want to find a realtor tomorrow, how am I going to know who the best realtor is for me? I'm not going to find it on Zillow. I can tell you that for sure. I'm not going to find that. Like, maybe my friends had a good real estate experience. Maybe they had a bad one. Maybe my friends are the reason why they had a bad real estate experience. Maybe the realtor was just fine. All kinds of stuff like that. So anyway, I'm here. If you want to ask me a question, put it in the chat. If you want to ask me a question after that, put it in the comment section. I'm here a lot. I like to go over pop culture. I like to go over trending news to some degree. I don't like to take it. I think the biggest news right now would be the Republicans and their inability to get a Speaker of the House through. But it's not, to me, that's not something I want to spend a lot of time on. I think that there's some other things going on in the NFL that I don't want to talk about because I just want to see it play out. And I feel like if you want to learn about those things, you're going to go somewhere else anyway. Maybe a more specific channel than mine. I'm all over the place, mostly real estate. But anyway, that's who I am. Who are you? I don't know. I've got some stats that say that people from Europe are watching my live stream, and it's like, good. Thank you. Because I messed with some stuff, I want to check one little thing just to make sure we're still doing okay. Oh man, what is this? That. Let me know how that goes. I feel like I'm just trying new things. Let's see if I can do this. Let me do this. What do you think of that? And then, interesting. Let's play around a little bit. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? That's too high, right? Is it a booming voice? I don't know. When I get more people on the chat, I think it will be more interesting. All right, that's all I'm going to do for today. I got to listen. Now I'm going to have to listen to the stream tonight and find out if it's any better. Let me check that again. I could do it that way. Well, let's just do it like this and see how it goes, eh? I kind of want my volume to be better. Oh, this is tough. I kind of want to be like, I like to be right around here. But see, I'm talking louder, so it's tough. All right, let's go back down here. All right. All right, well, this is what we're going to try tonight. Wish me luck. Sorry. I mean, I figure I might as well get working on that at some point in time. So we got a good show tonight. In the business that I'm in, you're supposed to create a hook for people. You're supposed to have this thing that's like, this is what's going to keep us watching the show. And I just spent probably 5 minutes ruining any sort of hook that I could have possibly set the hook. Anyway, we're going to talk about quite a few things. We're going to talk about the Chat GPT thing, what it means for search, what I'm looking at, and how it relates to the real estate game. We're going to talk. There's an advice columnist that had a piece of advice. I want to talk about that. We've got tweets from all over the spectrum of real estate, and then we've got 3 articles. One of them is about the short-term rentals in Philly are being regulated differently now. Short-term rentals affect. I mean, basically, it's a whole business created by the ability to do like Airbnb or VRBO, those kinds of things. We're going to talk about the housing bubble, the second one in the past, in the 2000s, and like what's going on with this? Why is this happening, and how can we do a better job? In theory, I don't know if that'll happen. But yeah, let's get into it then. Tonight, I don't have any special announcements. To start, let's look at mortgage rates first. I think that's so important. I think that everything you see in housing is related. Well, housing, anything you see in that space is very important. This is Deerwood Realty, STL.com. This is our brokerage website. And this is the Mortgage News Daily survey, 6.41%. As you know, I'd like to be at 5.5%. I say that every night. Not anything new. I know this sounds crazy, but I would just like kind of a level rate for a while. Let people kind of get used to where they're at. It doesn't matter what I want, though, right? It's not what we're necessarily going to get. Now, one place where credit is used and a little more volatile is in the auto space, cars. And that's showing signs of severe distress. So, but I mean, again, it's a situation where the prices ramped up so fast that even when they come down a little bit, it's not terrible. So where am I at on interest rates? Look, if you need to buy a house tomorrow, buy a house tomorrow. Don't worry about it. If you need to buy a house and then sell in a year, don't buy a house. Don't buy a house. This is my opinion. I'm telling you up front. Now, you could call your local realtor and maybe they'll think differently, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. By the time you buy the house and the market, makes its changes, you're going to be in a negative equity situation. And when you go to sell, it's going to be tough, especially if you've done nothing to the property. Anyway, let's get started. This is the advice piece that I wanted to go over with you. I thought it was interesting on a couple of fronts. It says, my wife and I live an average life in the Bay Area, making $320,000. Last year we bought a house for $200,000 over asking. Now we don't want to live in it. Should we get professional help? Kind of an interesting, do you need a psychiatrist or a psychologist for doing something so crazy? Now in St. Louis, now understand, we're not in San Francisco. In St. Louis, I saw people buying houses for over $100,000 over asking, which was ridiculous. Okay. Absolutely ridiculous. And anyone that said that was a good idea there was one house, that the basement, it was probably, they were asking probably like $350,000. The basement was totally collapsing and the walls were, and it had been repaired, but that wasn't going to last. And then they were disintegrating. And then the house itself was on this hill, like at the bottom of the hill, and water was just going to continually be an issue there. You could never have a finished basement. And that's what this house kind of needed. That house sold for $120,000 over asking. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous that you would spend that kind of money. I cannot fathom being the real estate agent that did that deal. Just ridiculous. I've always looked at it like the real estate agent on the buyer side is the one that gets people to do bad things. They say things like, look, we're going to have to be $100,000 over asking on this one for it to sell, or for us to buy it. Do you really want this one? I just think it's crazy. I wouldn't want to have anything to do with it. I think the most we went anywhere was 50 over a house. Now, understand the prices matter of the home. So in St. Louis, if we're talking 100,000 over, you're going to be in the $500,000 range already. And if you're in the $100,000 range to start, You're not going over 50. That would be ridiculous. So that does matter as a percentage. But let's continue with this. So is the question, should you get psychological help? Well, I don't know. I don't want to put anyone down in their profession. So, but look, living in the Midwest, when it says my wife and I live an average life in the Bay Area, making $320,000. I mean, $320,000 combined income in St. Louis is like, I mean, like you're just super rich, like super rich. Your kids going to the private schools, the best of the private schools, and just way different than the life I'm living. So let's continue. It says, question, I was a victim of fear of missing out during the housing market craziness and bought a house for $200,000 over the asking price. Just look at how that's phrased. I was a victim. I bought a house for $200,000 over asking, but I'm the victim. I've seen people like that, by the way. They're very dangerous. Now house prices are coming back to reality, and I feel like I lost my hard-earned money. Well, did you buy it in cash? I don't know what to do as I'm living with constant stress, thinking that I made a big financial mistake. And I'm not sure if I consult a financing advisor for better decision-making and long-term investment planning. Like, you did make a big financial mistake. Like, you probably should feel some stress. Right? What would be the feeling you would have if you made the right financial decision? Fear of missing out? I mean, to me, there's times to buy things and there's times not to. Now, it's taken me 45 years to figure that out. Okay? And we never really know if we're going to buy things at the right time. But I will just give you one example. On a used car, I remember buying a used car for one of our stepchildren, and it was a certain price. And we thought it was a good price. We didn't have anything issue. That same car, during the craziness of the last 2 years, went up in value like $7,000 or $8,000. Okay. And we said, look, I'm not paying that. I'm not paying that for the same car. I'm not paying $8,000 more for the same car we could have bought then. We'll wait for the prices to go down. It's the same thing with like stocks. I played the stock market all the time as somebody younger. And, you know, I'd always buy at the top. Warren Buffett's famous quote is like, be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy. Okay. Well, that's true. But the long-term trends, you know, are when you want to play, not like, oh, tomorrow the market went down 200 points. I guess that'd be a good time to jump in. That's just not the way it works. Same way with cars. And then with houses, I did buy a house in 2008. I have lived in this house since then. I don't feel like I'm in that bad a shape. And by the way, I think I bought a house in 2008. I don't exactly remember. I know that's kind of weird, but I don't pay attention to a lot of dates. So I don't know if you said, John, if you, should I buy a house right now? Like, what would you do? Well, I believe the houses are massively overvalued. Okay. Right now. And that they should come down in price. You say, well, will that be a house crash? Well, what is your definition of a crash? Down 20%. Oh, I guess so. Okay. You could probably have a crash. But that's coming off of like increases of maybe over 40% over 2 to 3 years. So, you know, and then the question is, well, how long am I going to own the home? You say, well, you're going to own the home a decade. Well, then I'd buy a house. You're going to own the home 30 years. Oh, okay. All right. Because during that time, a lot of things will happen. We don't know the future. We just know that things will happen. Will I be able to refinance at a lower rate? Should that be my strategy? Remember, finance is a strategy. I have an interesting situation going on where one of my stepchildren is starting to ask, financial questions like, hey, I've got a little extra money in my pocket. How should I invest it? And, having been through the highs and lows of investing, I just want to offer that, there's a whole industry around crappy advice you can give to somebody. And I just don't want that to happen with the kids. So I'll try to explain the same thing I'm explaining to you tonight. It's like there's a time to buy things and there's a time not to. As we said with the interest rates, do you want to, is there a compelling reason for you to buy a house right this moment? That's what it's got to be about. Let's continue with the article. It says, my wife and I are in our 30s and are working in the Bay Area, making about $320,000 combined yearly. We live an average life and watch every dollar that we spend. We bought our first condo in an average neighborhood back in 2016 as we didn't have kids at the time and wanted to stay close to our job location since we had to go to the office pretty much every day. It says in 2021, we had a child and started thinking we needed more space. This is called a life choice, a life decision, life-altering decision. This is when people typically buy houses. Weddings, new children, divorces, deaths, life events. We wanted a good, safe neighborhood, good schools, and a good work-life balance with a hybrid work option. I started to look for a place with these needs in mind, knowing that the housing market was crazy and we would need to go over asking price. We found a house with nice neighborhood and schools, however, very far from our job location and not as big as we wanted, and put an offer for $200,000 over the asking price. We were disappointed as our prior few offers were not selected. We closed the deal in March of 22 and went for a vacation because we really wanted to recharge. That might be a clue that you spent too much money. Also, I totally understand being disappointed. I had to tell buyers all summer long, hey, we put in a good offer, but we didn't get it. There were 35 offers. Ours fell somewhere in the middle. But that doesn't mean it's not a game. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not a game to see who's the dumbest one to spend the most money. Who's the one that's going to get caught holding the bag? It's you in this case. You're the big winner. Now you're holding a house that you don't like. It says, after coming back from vacation, we didn't end up relocating to the new house because I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to go that far from my job's location and from our current friend circle. We decided to continue to stay at the condo we bought in 2016, and we rented our house we bought this year with a monthly mortgage being $4,450 inclusive of everything. However, we're only getting $3,250 in rent. Now, this is something for you to understand. People always assume that landlords make money. People always assume that you should always buy a rental and rent it out. Did the numbers make sense? If they don't, it's not a good investment. I feel like I made a very bad financial decision and I'm doubting my skills to manage investments effectively. What should we do? You made a bad financial decision, okay? Yes. Doubting your skills to manage finances. Well, I don't know because you made one bad decision, that makes you unable to manage all your finances and investments effectively. How are you going to learn if you don't make a few mistakes, right? Well, you take the training wheels off the bicycle, what happens to the person riding it? They probably fall over. It's bad, but it happens. Here's the answer. Let's see if I agree with this. It says, first of all, no, you're not alone. This happened all over the country as tight inventory forced bidding wars, and kudos for knowing that it's time to face the music and figure out what to do next by looking at what's going on and considering hiring a financial professional to give you advice. Let me ask you this. If you did have a financial advisor, would you have listened to him in the first place? Or would you have just gone and done it? Step 1 is to do a complete financial evaluation of the house. It's now a business, so what does the profit and loss look like? We know you're losing $14,400, but is this a complete accounting or just the mortgage, less rent? Given depreciation expense and maybe interest, you may be cash neutral on the monthly cash flow. Parker adds, you'll need to look at your cash flow and the current value of the rental home and the outlook for real estate values in the future. No, you don't. What does that have to do with right now? It could be that the investment will work out, or it may make sense to sell. That's true. Way to straddle the fence there. It might work out. Look at the market and see what you think is going to happen. What if it goes down? Then what? I mean, this is very, very elementary. Elementary. Since it's a rental property, if you sell at a loss, you may be able to write off some of those losses on the property sale for tax purpose. I don't think they want to do that. That said, it's important to review the tax situation. Real estate is one part of an investment portfolio, and an advisor would likely opine on your other savings and investments, taking into consideration your tolerance for risk. I mean, they have a massive risk now, but they make over $320,000 a year. So selling isn't your only option, and it might not be the right one. What is the likely future of the property? With inflation raging, we would be justified to think that rent will increase over time and eventually will make the property pass break even on a cash flow basis. Eventually, yes. Eventually, at some point in time, something will be different. At that point, at least the investment will not be bleeding cash. Wow. Well, here's the thing. Here's the bind. Okay, let's assume that's true. But what about the value of the home? Is it $200,000? Did you really pay $200,000 over asking? And then if you went to sell it tomorrow, what is it worth? I mean, yes, you could get cash flow, but you could also be losing value. That's a terrible situation. Once you have these, what if somebody wrecks your place? Oh, wouldn't that suck? Once you have these elements in place, Chen advises thinking about what you want out of your life and financial plan. How does an expensive rental fit in your future? What would you do if the money, if it's sold? It seems like you could use a real financial plan to figure out some of the answers to these questions. I mean, I don't know. Obviously their goal wasn't to be a luxury rental property manager. It says, do you need a financial planner to help? It can certainly help, but if you feel you can do this on your own, it's not necessary. Working with a financial planner to carefully weigh different considerations before making your next move would give you an expert outside perspective. Katie Wood says this, home expert at NerdWallet, who thinks your instinct to talk to a financial planner is a good one. I mean, as opposed to how is that a bad idea? You could also potentially talk to local real estate agents to get a sense of what's going on in your market now, giving you more data to inform your planning. Yeah, go on Zillow or something, or go on Reddit and say, I might need a real estate agent, and see what happens. Make sure you put your contact information in. If you just need someone to help get you started, you might want to find an hourly financial planner with real estate experience. I agree with that. I think all financial planning should be fee-based. I really do. I really find it galling that, like, you have a financial, you have an investment advisor, and all their money is based on you giving some portion of your assets to the manager as compensation. Just seems to me like just ridiculous. If I had an issue that I felt like I needed to discuss with a financial planner, I would do it, and I would do it on a fee basis, and I wouldn't think anything of it. let me ask you, what would you do in this situation? Would you sell the house at a loss just to get out? Just to stop the bleeding? I don't know. I've never had that problem because I've never had that kind of money where I could make stupid mistakes with money. I mean, that's not true. I've made stupid mistakes with money, but it's been at such a lower level. Second article of the night. I thought this was interesting, and it's very, very relevant to a real estate brokerage like myself. I've tried to use the internet to find people that might want to buy and sell houses for over a decade. I've had success one time. I've met one client through my real estate website. I've had all different kinds. I've had template sites. I've had my own custom site. And I was always a big believer in real estate SEO, like the search function. But at this point in time in 2023, there is no way I'm competing with the likes of Zillow, Trulia, well, what's left of Trulia, Homes.com, Realtor.com. I mean, those companies are massive. Their investments in the technology just blows mine away. The user experience is 10 times better than anything I can provide. And honestly, I question at times why I even have a website. That's how badly they're kicking my butt. And I want you to know right now. There's a lady that I used to watch that used to be on YouTube and all the time she talked about, what you need to do to, really win on the web game for real estate. And she's currently selling like anything else but web services on YouTube. Her whole channel's changed to being an entrepreneur. It's really fascinating. She went from a real estate agent to like selling, anything with an affiliate link to it. It's really bad, but I'm still here and I don't want to leave the real estate game. I just don't. I like it. It's very stressful, very hard on the psyche, but I mean, I'm here and I'm comfortable in a weird way. So let's look at this article here. Microsoft to challenge Google by integrating Chat GPT with Bing search. Now look, Google is not your friend. Okay. Like as a small business, not my friend. They don't do anything to help me at all. In fact, they penalize me from time to time. They always want to know if I'm changing my hours for the holidays. If you're a lead, okay, if you're interested in buying or selling a home in St. Louis, Missouri, you call me at 10 o'clock at night, I'll answer the phone. You call me on New Year's Day, I'll answer the phone. I mean, the idea that I'm not going to answer the phone for a real estate lead is ridiculous. I don't care when it is, but I'll be, if I don't update my business hours, I can be punished. If my website isn't perfect, I can be punished. But I know what the guys in St. Louis are spending on their websites, okay? Like the big heavy hitters, and they're at like $50,000. And it's like, are they making $50,000 off of their site? Maybe, but I'm just not interested. And so this idea of, SEO, I mean, I was all about SEO. I really thought that was the way to go. Based on what I see with the way this is going, I don't think I'm going to stay in that field. I think that the only way to do anything online will be online advertising, not SEO. I mean, if you have a product and you can't market it, you will get nowhere, quickly. So let's look at this. It says Microsoft to challenge Google by integrating Chat GPT with Bing search. Now, they said, I don't know if it's going to be in this article, but I have been reading up on this. It's like Google has sounded the alarm internally, oh my God, what happens if people don't go to Google to search results? I just want you to know I'm old enough to know that there was a time before Google. And if you want to know what that time was like, type something in, search for something in a browser that isn't Google. Go to Brave, go to DuckDuckGo. That's a horrible one. But just go and search and find what you're not seeing in Google and look at the results. Now, I don't like Google, but their results are vastly superior. Even when they hide searches and everything else, all the silliness that they pull, they're still 100% better than their nearest competitor. It's very bad. It's embarrassing. So there's another one called Bing. I mean, if you want to use Bing, it's cool, I guess. And so now it says that Microsoft is going to integrate Chat GPT with Bing search. Now, do you know what Chat GPT is? That's the new AI software that, like, you can write, like, hey, what's this and this and this, and it's like apparently it's searched the entire internet and it knows everything up until like 2022 or 2021. Like, it's read every page of the internet. Anyway, let's go. It says Microsoft is reportedly planning to launch a version of Bing that uses Chat GPT to answer search queries. The information reports that Microsoft hopes to launch the new feature before the end of March in a bid to make Bing more competitive with Google. Now, look, every once in a while, Microsoft will try with Bing to be like relevant, and every time it just kind of fades over time. By using the technology behind Chat GPT, which is built by AI company OpenAI, Bing could provide more human-like answers to questions instead of just links to information. Both Google and Bing already surface relevant information from links at the top of many search queries, but Google's knowledge panels are particularly widespread when it comes to searching for information about people, places, organizations, and things. Microsoft's use of Chat GPT-like functionality could help Bing rival Google's knowledge graph, a knowledge base that Google uses to serve up instant answers that are regularly updated from crawling the web and user feedback. If Microsoft is ambitious, though, it could go much further, offering many types of AI-based functionality. Well, it may end up being a better search, but is that, I mean, Google has branded itself as search. So how are you going to topple that? Merely having a better tool, a better mousetrap, if you will, isn't enough. Chat GPT brought conversational AI into the mainstream last year, letting users create poems, compose college essays, write code, and even shave hours off their work based on GPT 3.5, a large language model released last year. Chat GPT has wowed the web with its ability to generate answers and authentic-looking essays across an array of topics, but for all of its skills, the system still has major flaws, including racial biases and a tendency to present incorrect information as true fact. Look, humans present incorrect information as true fact. Humans have racial biases. It isn't going to stop. Even OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has cautioned that it's a mistake to be relying on Chat GPT for anything important right now. Like, that's a value judgment. What is important to one person is probably not even close to important to another. Exactly how Microsoft plans to integrate Chat GPT to Bing will be important, and it's likely the company will start with beta tests and a limited amount of integration before it's ready for all Bing users to take advantage of it. Well, yeah. While Chat GPT could help Bing challenge Google's dominance, Google already said it won't immediately launch its own rival because of reputational risk. Now, we don't know that Google doesn't already use, AI in the back end. Google reportedly cited bias and factuality issues with existing AI chatbots as a reason it's not ready to replace search just yet. Google has been using various large AI language models to improve its search engine subtly for years, though, and that's where I'm at. Then finally here at the end, it says Microsoft has a deep relationship with OpenAI, one of the world's leading AI companies. The Redmond-based tech giant is adding an AI text-to-image model to Bing, powered by OpenAI's DALL-E 2, invested $1 billion in OpenAI in 2019, and has an exclusive license to use its text generator AI GPT-3. How this later deal may help with the rumored Bing integration of Chat GPT isn't clear yet. So Microsoft already has a relationship with this company, OpenAI. And the AI text-to-image model is kind of interesting. I've been playing around with Canva, using its text to image model. There's one on Jasper. You have to pay a little extra for. I think it's great. The results aren't good all the time, but I think the idea is great. It says Microsoft has been betting its future on AI for at least 6 years, with CEO Satya Nadella I didn't even know who the CEO of Microsoft has been. I have no idea if that's a man or a woman, and it doesn't really matter. Discussing the importance of more intelligent apps and services in an interview with The Verge in 2016. Then that same year, Microsoft launched its conversation as a platform offering, a bet on chat-based interfaces overtaking apps as our primary way of using the internet and finding information. It looks like together with Chat GPT, Microsoft now wants to try and make that a reality inside Bing. I'm going here. I'm going here. Look, my kids, they used to do like, hey Siri, call this person. Hey Siri, oh, see, mine's going to go off. Stop. No. So like my phone just went off, but I never use it. It's not interesting to me. I don't need Siri to look something up for me. I can just do it on my own. I'm not there. I mean, if you could say, hey, call the pizza company down the road and order me a pizza and have it delivered for this time, I'd be okay with that. But I mean, that would make my life easier. Hey, order this off the internet at the best price you can find. Okay. But then it has to have, access to your finances. And then it's like, do you really want AI to have access to your finances? And it just goes on and on and on. Sorry, my nose itches tonight. The thing I would say is like, it will change SEO, but I think we're moving in a direction there anyway. I think we're actually going to be moving straight to ads completely being served to you. That there's no such thing as SEO really versus ads, like digital billboards basically. Now look, this is just me, but the days of writing an article and being ranked number 1 on Google that's a 5 or 10-year-old thought. And I've done it. And I still think it's like not helpful. Anyway, I'd be curious to know what you think about that. You should put it in the chat. You should put it in comments as we move on to the Twitter portion of our show tonight. Let's get to it. Starts off with a new contributor, Ricardo V Lago. The slope of price drop is high, but the way down is just starting. This is the USA home price level corrected by inflation. It just peaked right here. Okay. And now it's starting to go down. Now we don't know. Like, look, there's all these times where it went down a little. Okay. Right there, it went down 2012. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen right here. It could just be a leg to go up. I don't think that's going to be the case, but it might be. Who knows? Lance Lambert, Edward Pinto, director of the AEI Housing Center, forecasts that U.S. home prices will fall between 15 to 20% from peak to trough. U.S. home prices, Pinto tells Fortune magazine, will bottom in 2023 or 24. Well, that's nice. Why not 2025? Why not 2026? Why not say house prices will peak in 2030? It's like, thank you for the totally not tradable or not beneficial information. Are there any replies that are interesting? It says, finally, someone with brains and not extremely biased like Zillow or Realtor who is financial incentivized to keep prices pumped up. Do you think Zillow cares what house prices do? Do you think their business is based on house prices? Well, their business was, and they got out of that as quickly as possible. As soon as they lost their ass, I believe $435 million in a quarter when they tried to be fix and flippers, glorified fix and flippers, they were like, hey, this isn't the business for us. We are search. We are a marketing company. When people put in their information, we have realtors pay for that, and then we send them to those people. Now, we also do it now is like a service where they pay a portion of their commission to us to get a lead. I don't do Zillow. I couldn't even tell you if my profile on Zillow is accurate. It should be. I don't know. I've sold a lot of houses lately. I probably need to work on that. I don't believe that Zillow has. What difference does it make if house prices go up or house prices go down according to Zillow? Zillow's main job is to have real estate agents pay them money for marketing. If you think that that's like, and by the way, as a real estate agent, do I care if prices go up or down? No, I don't. I care about transactions. How many transactions can I do in a year? That's what I care about because that's how I get paid. You say, well, if the market goes south, you can't do any transactions. That's not true. Bargain hunters will always come out of the woodwork. You say, well, your people that you sold houses to will lose money. I'm like, I have no idea what will happen to people that I sold houses to. Okay. You know, it's like, I have to make transactions happen or I can't be in business. If the market goes down, it doesn't really matter if I can't get anyone to buy or sell a house. And I say get anyone. I mean, you know, how do I put it? To get anyone. Like if I can't get in front of someone who is in the market to buy or sell, I'm toast. That's just the nature of the business. It sucks. It sure would be nice to be handed deals and make all kinds of money. It doesn't work that way. You have to go get them on your own. I thought this was an interesting tweet from Cornelius X Carroll. A lot of people are saying this is the most advertised recession ever, with the innuendo being that because everyone knows a recession is coming, it somehow won't come. The people who hold this idea are subconsciously applying the financial market concept of Max Payne, which basically says if everyone knows something and is positioned accordingly, that thing won't happen. The Max Payne theory doesn't apply to the economy. In fact, recessions are self-actualizing. When people and companies prepare for a recession by reducing expenses, they end up causing the recession. Read up on the paradox of thrift. In summary, one person's spending is another person's income. I just want you to know that I agree with this 120%. Because I watched it happen in Detroit, Michigan in 2007, 2008. When the automakers signaled that they were in trouble, people of those communities stopped spending, okay? They really did. And at that time, the automakers were a significant part of the United States economy, so that also brought down spending. I call it like behavioral economics because it's based on behavior. This is what they did. And I will never forget that. As far as telegraphing the recession, I've been concerned about a recession since January of 2022. Okay? When inflation started going out of control, I was saying to anyone that would listen, you've got to fix inflation. Please fix inflation. And the Fed just said, no, it's due to Putin's price hike, the Ukraine war, this is transitory. And I'm like, no, it's not. Supplies chain disruptions, all this garbage. I was like, you've got a real problem. You printed a lot of money and gave it to a lot of people, and you devalued the dollar. That's what I said. And then you poured gasoline on the fire by lowering rates. Artificially low rates for a long period of time. Just a bad situation. So I believe this. I believe this 100%. Not ashamed of that. EncoreBubble, flipper in San Diego chasing the price down $1,075,000 to $999,900 in 5 and 10K increments. So let's see if this shows up good. Oh, okay. Let me see. So we have to start here. What are we doing here? Are we there? Okay, so this is where it starts. On 5/16/2022, okay, someone bought the home for $850,000. We don't know what it looks like. They fixed it up, and on 8/24, they listed it for sale for $1.75 million. And ever since then, they've been going down, down, down. Okay, to now where they're at is $999,900. Now, what would be funny is if they ended up selling it for less than what they bought it for after the flip. That's how you go out of business. You're going to see a lot of this. I mean, even in like 2021, I was watching people buy houses in my own neighborhood and I'm saying, you guys are idiots. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Someone would come in, honestly, and paint a fireplace, sand the floors down, leave the bathrooms from 1958 and call them retro or mid-century modern, and then like say it's perfectly preserved, and then try and sell these houses, and they would get the prices. And I would just look at the people that moved in like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? But to each their own. I'll tell the story here. It won't be a very long one. People like 4 houses down from me said they wanted to move to St. Louis because their kid has a job here. They were living in Illinois, in the sticks, and so Southern Illinois. So they buy this house that had been flipped, not very well. It was like a partial fix and flip. So far they've had to redo the bathroom. They've had to waterproof the entire home because the house has a terrible basement flooding issue, which, by the way, the basement was redone and they got to redo that again. They just redid the sewer. It's just terrible. They've got so much money in it, they're never getting it back out. And now the house prices are going down. So anyway, we've got a lot of weirdos moving into our neighborhood anyway, but they're really on top of things. Moving on, the ATX RE Podcast, Exhibit A, peak July pricing falling down to earth. Do you think buyers will worry something is wrong with the house giving a $450,000 price reduction, or will they understand it was priced too high to begin with? So this is when it was active. It came in at $1.375 million. This is down even more to $924,000. I don't think that's, to answer the question, I do not think that buyers will worry something is wrong with the house given the $450,000 price reduction. I think if you were to look at, I think that the house came to market overpriced. They missed when they did that. Okay, so all your chance of finding a buyer is the momentum is totally dead, and now you have to play catch up. At some point you will find the right price, and someone will write an offer, and it will go just fine. But right now is not that time. Moving on, Darth Powell, home prices have made homes historically unaffordable at 2007 levels. Don't worry though, the bubble, Jerome's world, is popping. Don't fight the Fed. Housing affordability remains pressurized. The primary driver being last year's mortgage rate shock. The secondary driver being the pandemic housing boom's 40% jump in U.S. home prices. Yes. The Fed saw the increase in home prices, okay, which the one thing that people are missing is during the pandemic, people thought they were going to die, okay, if they were in big cities. So they all moved out. Anyone with any means moved out, moved away. Then when we found out more about the pandemic, people were like, I live really far away from my job. I need to go back. And so they're sitting there trying to buy going back. It was just, the pandemic did cause issues. Don't get me wrong. But there was overcompensation. I mean, when you saw that the housing market was hot, why were you keeping rates artificially low? Like, How do we trust the Fed ever? They don't have a great track record. Ryan Lundquist, I think I tweeted this on my own account. I thought this was funny. Here's a look at the search terms homes for sale over the past 5 years in the United States. Not a shocker to see seasonal pattern with more searches during the spring and fewer during the fall. Lower overall lately, but still a slight uptick too. So see, this is where it is and right there. I've looked at that before. This is just interest over time. I believe, this is based on like a scale of 100. It's not the actual searches, which is annoying. Oh, my nose itches. Goodness. Ugh. And just a reminder that people are searching for mullets more than home prices. It's true. It's true. You can see it. Crazy, isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, I would suspect that most people still talk to a friend or family member that's in real estate when they want to know about home prices. Richard V. Lago. This was an interesting one. When the Fed rate pivots, then stocks would resume the trend up, claim many CNBC Bloomberg commentators say. So it's not really, historically, stocks have bottomed out 6 to 18 months after a pivot. Okay, so we'll open this one. This is the Wilshire 5,000 stock market cap. And that's like considered like most of the market. So the Fed pivots and then it goes down. Okay. The blue line is the Fed funds rate. The Fed pivots, rates go down. There's your stock trough. Fed pivots, stock prices go down. Pivots, stock prices go down. Kind of interesting. So like all the traders out there wishing for the Fed to pivot are not seemingly pricing in the fact that the market still seems to go down after the pivot, which could be disastrous. Kerr Mason on Twitter, last one for the night. I thought this was interesting. I'll share my experiences as well. It says the market has been more vigorous this week than I would have expected. More and more new listings going up each day. Buyers coming out of the woodwork and my dead listings getting multiple showing requests. Well, I have respect for Kerr Mason, so I'm kind of confused. Like, why does she have a bunch of dead listings? Number one. Okay. And then, for me, has it been more vigorous? No, not this week. What are we, Wednesday? No, but again, I don't do that much to where I could really base it. I mean, I'm looking at not doing another deal until probably April. I mean, it's just kind of the way the market is seasonally here. It says, then somebody else wrote, hearing this from my anecdotal sources, seems like a lot of market participants were waiting for the holidays to blow over before stepping on the gas pedal. Should be interesting to see the incoming data. I don't know. All right, well, we're going to move into the articles now. See what we got tonight. So I thought this was interesting. It said the second housing bubble of the 21st century is over. Now, why are we in the second bubble of the 21st century? Like, why? It says the 21st century, and I've got a link to all these articles in the description. It says the 21st century, only 23 years old, has already had two giant international housing bubbles. It makes one doubt that we were getting any smarter with experience. That's absolutely correct. Among the countries involved in the second bubble, both the U.S. and Canada fully participated in the newest rampant inflation of house prices. Prices this time reached levels far above those of the last boom peak. In the U.S., the S&P Case-Shiller National Home Price Index by mid-2022 had risen to 67% over its 2006 bubble peak, 130% over its 2012 trough. In Canada, the Teranet National Bank House Price Index had soared to 143% over its 2008 peak, 168% over its 2009 trough. What the Federal Reserve and the Bank of Canada both wrought with their hyper-low interest rate policies were house prices which would be unaffordable as soon as mortgage interest rates returned to more normal levels. For a number of years, one could ask, when would that ever happen? Now we know in 2022. Now in late 2022, with mortgage interest rates higher, housing bubbles are deflating and house prices are dropping on a nationwide basis in both the U.S. and Canada. I think Canada has it worse. Here we go again into another house price fizzle following another housing price boom. How is it that we could find ourselves caught up in the problems of another housing bubble so soon? It has only been 10 years since 2012, the year house prices stopped falling in the United States and formed the trough of the painful bust, which had followed the pending bubble of 1999 to 2006. Yeah. Up to the point where the house prices started falling across the U.S. last time, expert voices pronounced that U.S. house prices could fall on a regional basis, as they had numerous times, but that it was not possible for house prices to fall on a national basis in an economy so large and diversified. That theory could not have been more mistaken, and the national average house price fell 27%. In 2022, the theory is again being shown to be wrong, but how big the fall will be this time is not yet known or knowable. So yeah, there are always people like permeables, we would call them in the stock market. There's always people that will give you a bullish case for why the market can't go down. They're wrong. It's going to go up and down. We can take as a key ironic lesson that when large numbers of people believe house prices cannot fall, especially when they're emboldened by the central bank behavior, it makes it more probable and finally makes it certain that the prices will ultimately fall. When they do, what had been built into everybody's financial models as HPA, or house price appreciation, becomes HPD, house price depreciation. It would be better all along to refer to it as HPC, or house price change, thus reminding ourselves that prices of any asset can go up or down, perhaps by a lot. 10 years, it seems, is long enough to dim the memories that prices can move dramatically in both directions, even on a nationwide basis. A bubble market, when extended for years, makes a great many people happy since they are making money and seem to be growing richer. And the higher their leverage, the faster they seem to be growing richer. As the great financial observer Walter Bagehot wrote 150 years ago, the times of too high price mean almost everything will be believed for a little while. I think that's true. I think that's true. That's why you see people buying houses that they otherwise could not have afforded with lower interest rates, and buying the max house they can, because they feel like they're getting that's the best chance they're going to have of getting a house that they could otherwise never afford for their entire lives. It's kind of depressing. It says, then the reversal comes and different beliefs come to prevail. In just 4 months from June to October 2022, U.S. house prices dropped a remarkable 8.4%, with prices declining from their peak in all 60 of the largest metropolitan areas in the country. In October, sales of existing houses declined for the 9th month in a row and were down 28% from a year earlier. Applications for mortgage to buy a house were down 42% from the year before. Mortgage banks reported they were on average losing money on mortgage originations, and many were laying off staff. The share price of 2021's largest mortgage bank, Rocket Companies, was down 70% from its 2021 high. The CEO of the National Association of Home Builders stated we're heading into a housing recession. Well, you're not allowed to say that. In Canada, average house prices fell 7.7% from May to October, the largest 5-month drop in the history of the Terran Index, which goes back to 1997. In Toronto, the country's financial capital and former star of rapid house price inflation, the May to October house price drop was a vertige. That's a hard word. I've never even seen it. 11.9%. Successive headlines in monthly Terranet National Bank House Price Index announcements reads, record price drop in August, another record monthly decline in September, another monthly decline in October. In spite of these rapid percentage rates of decline, house prices in both countries are still at very high levels. That's where I'm at. They're still very, very high based on where they came from. How much further can they fall from here? For the U.S., the Federal Reserve carefully stated in its latest financial stability report, with valuations at high levels, house prices could be particularly sensitive to shocks. Coming to specifics, the AEI Housing Center, which we just looked at the tweet from Lance Lambert talking about this, predicts a 10 to 15% national average fall in house prices during 2023. That would wipe out a lot of housing wealth that the bubble made people think they had, a reduction of perhaps 4 or 5 trillion of perceived wealth on top of the 3 trillion lost so far this year. It would put many houses bought near the top of the market, especially under government low down payment programs, into no or negative owner's equity. For Canada, the Wall Street Journal suggested that its housing market is particularly sensitive to monetary tightening and reported that Oxford Analytics estimates that home prices in Canada could fall 30%. Recall that a price has no substantive reality. It is an intersection of human expectations, actions, hopes, and fears. I like to ask audience, how much can the price of an asset change? My proposed answer, more than you think. Well, Nicholas Nassim Taleb wrote in The Black Swan, like traders aren't expecting the Black Swan event, and that's the one that wipes them out every time. Of course, nobody, including the Federal Reserve and the Bank of Canada, knows just where housing prices will go, but we can all guess. Noted economist Gary Schilling wrote in November, price declines are just starting and recent weakness probably has far to go. That seems to me likely. In any case, the second great housing bubble of this still young century is over and a new phase has begun. The housing bubble seems to be over. I agree with that. I have no problems with that. It doesn't seem like we keep seeing that there's small, slight house price gains month over month. I find that to be crazy, but okay. Inventory, available homes for sale in the market, defined as available homes for sale in the market inventory, to me is still rather low. There's still not a lot of houses on the market, and so that is beneficial to keeping prices somewhat stable. But I don't know how much what I would call shadow inventory there is out there. That is houses where people were going to buy them and flip them or have already purchased them and they're within the flip. We have a fix and flip in the neighborhood that I can't imagine actually selling for simple reason that, interest rates have doubled. Why would I spend that on that house when it was expensive before at 2%, 3% rates? Now it's at 6.5%. No. This is the next article. On January 1st, Philly will start enforcing new rules for Airbnb and other short-term rentals. Owners say they aren't ready for the new regulations coming to the short-term rental industry. Look, I want you to understand up front that the idea of the short-term rental industry is real. People want to believe Airbnb is all about these mom and pops just renting out their experts. No, these are sophisticated people in this industry that make smart financial decisions when they can. There are many that think that the short-term rental industry is responsible for destruction of the ability for an average American to be able to afford a home. They believe that they should be highly regulated because why are you allowed to buy something? Because the valuations are different in neighborhoods where you have like a residential neighborhood versus a rental in that residential neighborhood. It's like you can afford to buy it for a lot more than an average person can pay to live in that neighborhood. So I get the point of an Airbnb, but like when I was doing residential property management, you had to sign a 1-year lease. Okay. And now you don't have to do that. It's like, ugh. And then, for instance, if my neighbor leased out their property for the weekend, and I have different people living in the house next to me every week, it's not a good feeling. And it's an industry. I want you to understand it's an industry. People are actively participating in this industry. Less and less about the one or, like the couple that bought one rental. It gets to be, everybody's in on it. And that's when things can go south. Beginning Sunday, Philadelphia will have a fresh regulatory regime for Airbnb and other short-term rental properties. Since 2015, the city has required many short-term rental owners to obtain zoning permits for businesses operated out of their own homes. Investment properties where a host doesn't live have always been illegal without a hotel license, although countless people unknowingly broke the law. In both cases, the rules were rarely enforced. And that's the other thing is people make all these rules, but enforcement is always lacking. Then in 2021, as controversy swirled around bad actors in the sector, City Council passed a bill that sought to tighten oversight. Now, many people who have built businesses around short-term rentals say the change, paired with a sluggish schedule at the Zoning Board of Adjustments, will doom their livelihoods. Now, this is an interesting take on the problem. This take is look, we will comply with your short-term rental zoning rules. However, you are not providing us with the ability to get the permits necessary in a timely manner to be in compliance. This is financially really impacting me because this is 100% of my income, says Angela Romero, who owns a triplex in East Kensington, where she lives in one unit and rents out the other two. I don't know how I'm going to be able to live, and it's giving us a very short time frame for us to figure out how to pivot. Previously, owners who lived in the same building as their rental space had to get a zoning permit only if they were renting the space for more than 90 days a year. The regulations were not strongly enforced, including on owners who illegally operated short-term rental units where they did not live. New law requires a limited lodging operator license for short-term rental hosts who live in the unit. The paperwork is inexpensive, but it means that hosts have to comply with a variety of other requirements, such as obtaining lead-based paint certifications and ensuring their properties are up to code. Ugh. Well, I mean, they should be up to code. Owners renting properties where they don't live also must get a hotel license. In both cases, hosts will have to provide a license number confirming that these permits have been secured to online brokers like Airbnb and Vrbo. The companies will be liable for any violations. The city expects that that means the tech platforms will not allow those without licenses to list their properties. That's pretty. So they went after the big, the curators of these short-term rentals. The bill was introduced by Council Member Mark Squilla, we're going with it, in February of 2021 and signed by Mayor Jim Kenney in June of that year. It was meant to go into effect April 2022, but city policymakers agreed to delay its implementation until the summer and then again until 2023. Eventually, it has to go into effect. We passed this over a year ago and gave them until July. Then we gave them another 6 months. If we do it again 6 months from now, they're going to say there's still people who didn't know. It'll just keep continuing on and on and on. That's the goal. Delay enforcement of the law. I added that. The short-term rental industry got the city to push back implementation last year by arguing that some hosts had not been notified and that delays at the ZBA would make it zoning board authority will make it impossible for many hosts to get legal before the deadline. A trip to the ZBA is often necessary because under the zoning code, short-term rentals in the units owners don't live in can operate only in areas of the city where hotels are allowed, which typically are in denser commercial areas like Center City or University City. In other areas, they must seek a zoning exception to secure their newly required license. Wait times at the ZBA have soared during the pandemic, with appeals taking 5 to 6 months to complete. If a hearing is continued, as they often are, it can add another month to the process. So far, only 247 people have received a limited lodging operator's license, and 164 have received a hotel permit out of an Airbnb host count in the thousands. What's coming to a head right now is whether we're about to ban 70% or more of the short-term rentals, said Theron Lewis, founder of the lobbying group Philadelphia Short-Term Rental Association. People are trying to apply for a variance, but the ZBA is not able to see anybody until February or later. If something doesn't change, these people are going to lose their businesses. That's true. According to Lewis, at least 2,000 of his members have been struggling to meet the new law. He said that Short-Term Rental Association membership is 70% women-owned businesses, 60% non-white owned, and 40% retired. But I don't understand that, because if it's 70% women-owned businesses and 60% non-white owned, that's 130%. And if then you add 40% to that, that's 170% of their membership. I just don't understand. I mean, it says it's folks that are most vulnerable that have been affected by this. But Squilla said options are available for those who are unable to make the new requirements in time. They can become traditional landlords, renting their properties to those looking for a home. They can rent for 30 days for more at a time, although demand for such a time span is admittedly smaller. Look, there was never a design in most of the housing in the United States to have short-term rentals. It just was not something you would do. Squilla says these changes need to be put in place. For far too long, the market has been functionally unregulated, which has allowed bad actors to flourish. Although there may be some pain now, he said, getting everyone licensed and up to code will ensure there's a safe and sufficient housing for the 2026 semi-quincentennial, and the World Cup. The World Cup's coming to Philadelphia? Huh. We're not anti-rentals. We want more rentals. We want everybody to be in compliance because we have these big events coming. If there are issues, we can address them before that happens. We cannot keep pushing the ball down the road. I believe that they're making it too difficult. I believe that something should be done about the concept of short-term rentals. And that when you retroactively apply rules to otherwise, citizens who are otherwise trying to comply with all of your regulations, it makes it wrong. There should be a grace period. You should be able to sell your property if it's not in the right zone. You should have time to be able to do that. A very fascinating problem. Last article of the night. Trudeau bans foreign investors from buying property in Canada after Chinese and immigrants. This is what they wrote. I'm not trying to be racist. Snapped up so much it pushed up the average cost of a home to $800,000. A law barring foreigners from buying property in Canada went into effect Sunday. The bill seeks to quell the country's housing prices by prohibiting all outsiders, particularly investors, from purchasing property in the country's 10 provinces. Passed by Parliament in June, the bill serves as a cornerstone of Trudeau's proposal to cool speculation that saw home prices swell after the pandemic. I am personally, my personal position right now is that I don't like foreign investment in property in the United States. You say, well, John, it increases values for everyone. I don't necessarily want that. I don't know that your home should be your biggest investment. I don't know that stock should be your biggest investment. I'm just, my thought is simply, look, if a Chinese corporation wants to buy farmland in Nevada or in Nebraska, and then they don't farm it, intentionally harming the United States, raising food prices, I think that's a problem. Canadian law barring foreign ministers from buying property in the country took effect Sunday as part of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's plan to address inflating prices spurred by a recent uptick in home purchase from Asian immigrants. I find that to be highly offensive racially. It doesn't matter where the people are from. You can't just take a whole group of people and say they're the problem. The bill, dubbed the Prohibition on the Purchase of Residential Property by Non-Canadians Act, seeks to quell the country's housing crisis by prohibiting all outsiders, particularly investors, from purchasing property throughout its 10 provinces. Passed by Parliament in June, the guidance is a cornerstone of Trudeau's proposal to cool speculation that has seen its average home prices swell to an eye-watering $800,000 since the pandemic. The country's housing market is since yet to recover, chiefly due to a now limited supply of homes left by opportunistic investors, the vast majority of whom data shows hail from India and China. It says, as demand continues to diminish, frenzied bidding wars for the few homes left have become let me read again. As demand continues to diminish, frenzied bidding wars for the few homes left have become commonplace, with an increasing amount of Canadians finding themselves displaced amid the historic highs, up 38% from just 3 years ago. That said, the law, which had received little attention from the mainstream media, has stirred some accusations of xenophobia, as immigration numbers in Canada have recently hit all-time highs in Canada. Census data released in October revealed immigrants now make up 23% of the population, with most coming from Asia, causing many industry experts to posit that there's a connection. It comes as Governor Ron DeSantis proposed similar legislation for a state in Florida, which would prohibit buyers from China and 7 other countries of concern from buying agricultural land that surrounds military bases as well. That seems interesting. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree that people should be able to buy. We can't go to Mexico and buy property. A United States citizen can't just go. I was looking into property in Croatia yesterday. You have to jump through a number of hoops to be able to do that as a U.S. citizen. The yet-to-be-approved bans, the politician has said, will make it more difficult for foreign-based powers, including China, Cuba, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Syria, and Venezuela, to engage in espionage or influence operations within the Sunshine State. Now, look, my problem with picking a terrorist list like they are there is, like, you never know who's after you, okay? countries that say they're friendly to you may not necessarily be friendly to you. I mean, like the UK, if you look at like the last couple of scandals we've had in the United States, the UK has been, their intelligence network has been quite involved in these issues. So I don't know that we have any friendly countries. In a press release touting their own law, which is only a temporary 2-year measure, which I think is hilarious. They spent all this time and energy and they banned it for 2 years. Canadian officials reiterated how, despite recent criticisms, they still stand behind the guidance, which was quietly passed by Trudeau back in June. Housing Minister Ahmed Hussein, that's the Canadian name that I'm used to, asserted last month that the legislation is meant to ensure that housing is owned by Canadians for the benefit of everyone who lives in this country. The campaign website for Trudeau's party offered a similar statement regarding the guidance, while also outlining the reasons for recent volatility in the housing market. The desirability of Canadian homes is attracting profiteers, wealthy corporations, and foreign investors. The Liberal Party of Canada wrote ahead of the laws coming into effect on Sunday. This is leading to a real problem of underused and vacant housing, rampant speculation, and skyrocketing prices. Homes are for people, not investors. I believe in that. Trudeau echoed this sentiments back in April at an event touting his signing of the bill earlier this month as part of the country's budget proposal for the year. During a speech, the 51-year-old, what difference does it make how old he is, who narrowly won his third bid for the position in September, stated that the law was pushed through Parliament to make life more affordable for Canadians and grow our economy. Good luck. I mean, just lies. That Trudeau is just a very slimy worm. Instead of properties, the Progressive, who came under fire for strict lockdown measures during the COVID-19 pandemic that saw several small businesses go out of business, stated the newly penned plan invests in people. Making life more affordable for Canadians has to start with addressing housing affordability. You know what's interesting to me? Like, it's all based on income. It's not what people own. It's not what people own. It's not what people can buy. It's how much they make. Income is so important. It's a big issue for a lot of Canadians. It's a big issue to solve. There's no one silver bullet that's going to solve everything. That's why our plan has 3 key pillars. The first is helping people save to buy a home. The second is focusing on housing supply to make sure we're creating more homes across the country. And the third is putting an end to the speculation that's driving up house prices unnecessarily. The 3-time Prime Minister singled out Ontario's Hamilton in particular, which, like countless cities across the country, has seen home prices surge. The port city, located less than 2 hours drive from the border to Buffalo, has seen property costs surge 16.8% in 2 years, with the average price of homes now standing at $761,000, even after falling 8.9% in 2022. Addressing the crowd, Trudeau conceded that this phenomenon was occurring frankly across the country, leaving average Canadians in the lurch. While investors who bought properties before or in the early stages of the pandemic turn a profit, Canada needs more affordable housing. Be careful with that word. It's not what you think it is. It doesn't mean what you think it does. When Canadians work hard and save, they should be able to afford a home. Homes are to live in, to raise a family, and to build a life, and not a way to boost a balance sheet. Well, he slammed the often deep-pocketed investors who often hail from countries like U.S. and U.K. as part of the problem. Far too many families, the dream of home ownership in today's market is simply out of reach. Young Canadians deserve the opportunity to build a future in a home of their own, just as their parents were able to do before them. But I don't believe that young people were necessarily able to go to downtown Toronto and buy a house at any point in time. I mean, there is some rationale to high home prices. Like, in theory, you do have to earn enough money to be able to buy a home. He added that all Canadians deserve to have an affordable home. This is so relative. And that the recently improved budget, which includes the recently passed law, gives us the tools to make a difference. That said, the new guidance, which comes as the Bank of Canada, like the Federal Reserve, has frantically hiked interest rates to address rampant inflation, states that properties not located within metropolitan hubs in places like Vancouver, Ontario, and Toronto will not be subject to the ban. And by the way, when the housing market crashes, they will beg investors to come and buy homes. This generally means that municipalities with a core population of less than 10,000 people will not be subject to the ban, whereas communities with a core population that's greater than 10,000 People will be impacted. I'm done with this. I'm done. It's too long. It's too long, and I'm done. So here, for the night, there, done. I hit the button. I'm sorry. That's going to cause problems. Well, what did we learn tonight? Well, we learned that Canada blames its problem on Indians, their housing problem. Yeesh. We learned that short-term rentals is an industry. It's not just this mother and father that, have this extra place they want to lease out and earn some extra income for food. No, it's a big business. They have their own lobbying. And I don't know. I feel like we learned that Philadelphia isn't doing it right. They're enacting rules retroactive and without the ability to, get the proper permits in place. I think it's kind of shady. The second housing bubble is starting to deflate in the United States and Canada. Is it bad Fed policy that causes these bubbles? I think so. We learned that someone making $320,000 makes bad financial decisions and that they should feel bad about that. It happens to everyone, even people making like $50,000 a year. And then we learned about Chat GPT possibly taking on Google through Microsoft. But I mean, Microsoft has like 0.3% of the search market currently. So good luck with that. I forgot that Bing was even a browser. So anyway, that being said, I'm going to head on out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you on the next one.